Right, no pressure. I'm sure that most people were like running out, crying after my presentation. That what is he talking about? Anyway, but I think what I'm going to talk about today sort of fit well with the session just before this. I think those of you who were in Michael's session on escape rooms is all about space. It's all about how can we connect different contexts, informal, formal context, digital and physical, and try to make sure that we actually make the best use of what we have rather than being trying to do things a bit too sophisticated for our audience. So just to give a bit of context, so this is where I work. We've got a hill where we do give sermons on the sermon on the mountain, or how do you call it? So my talk today is about Beatitudes. I'm not sure of you. Those of you who go to church, I think someone mentioned about church this morning. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is to work with different stakeholders and trying to ensure they understand what would motivate them to learn and to teach in a more creative way, because it's quite hard these days, especially when you become a lecturer at university. It's like you are bombarded with so many different administration to do, paperwork and whatnot, and they don't have time to innovate the way they teach. They just deliver, and that's it. But we've got so many different opportunities to try and help them and work with them and try to discover different ways of doing exactly what they want to do in teaching and learning. So in terms of research, I'm showing this just to show that there's a lot of interest and a huge appetite for gamification out there. There are so many people who are willing to throw money and us doing research around games and gamification, but it all depends on if we focus on the right needs and be aware of what is needed around the world so that we can actually work together as a community to not only do research-driven practice, but also practice-driven research, because I like both. And these are some of the projects that we are working on that is trying to look at game-based sort of practice in different ways, and as well as research. And we find it's quite interesting to work with different topics: game-based learning, game-based research, gamification, pure gamification, because if you want to talk about trying to be pedantic with different terms, I think we are losing the point. I think we need to really try and see how we can get inspired by games and play, and how we can actually help create engagement for the different processes, the different campaigns, health campaigns, so on and so forth, in trying to help people to discover the right solution for their challenges. So we need to really look at different types of ways for us to actually use game-based inspirations for our work. So in my work, from what I've experienced by working in different projects, as well as working with different stakeholders, a hybrid approach to carrying out gamification is one of the key things that I think is going to be successful, because we should not be entirely driven by technology. We can use technology as inspirations, because I believe in taking inspirations from every single thing that we can see in our world and try and see how we can remold it, how can we remix it, how can we create a program or a software or any solutions out there that would solve the problems. Yeah, and it's all about motivation. It's hard. All of us are motivated in different ways. I've worked with different stakeholders who are saying that we don't need any gimmick for us to learn. We are engaged by mastery. But I said, but this is one of the core drives in gamification, so you're on the right track. If you are motivated by something that is more engaging to onboard you in teaching and learning, then why not? So I quite like the fact that Joris today were talking about how we can use both extrinsic and intrinsic together to create the right program for our stakeholders. And worked with so many different stakeholders out there from, I'm not sure if you recognize Ian Livingston, the godfather of game industry in the UK, we played slapstick with him. So it's quite interesting to see how we can actually work with someone like him and with some kids in Malaysia, which is quite interesting to see the different ways they look at games and play, the different ways we can actually use gamification in that particular context. And what I'm going to talk about today is some inspirations I get from the different projects that I'm working on, the different stakeholders that I've engaged with, and different people that I've spoken to. We really need to think hybrid. Someone actually asked me a question about a few weeks ago, and they were saying that when you talk about hybrid, are you talking about blended? I said, no, blended is about using digital resources and physical resources to help you to possibly teach or train, perhaps. Hybrid is all about being more holistic in what you do. Different configurations of different resources that can create an experience that will be empowering for your stakeholders. So it can be a selection of non-digital or digital, or it can be entirely digital, perhaps. But the context of the learning, or the context of the training, or the context of the experiences that you want to create would have to address the different needs of the stakeholders, and as well as the different needs of that particular topic that you want to address. So what normally we will look at is people, diverse people, different expertise, different experiences that can create a fantastic hybrid situation where we talk about collective journey this morning. So it is about individuality that would lead to collective intelligence or collective creativity, and process has to be hybrid in terms of trying to look at different disciplines. So I'm always looking at more transdisciplinarity sort of approach where you actually look at different methods in different sectors. How can you merge it into one unified approach that can help you to inform what you need to do? Because, for example, if you work in sort of a health sector, you can't just, we don't have the resources to get every single experts out there. But if we understand the right needs and the right intervention, if you want to use gamification, it can help us to create solutions that we need. And space, of course, is quite key. Like what we have done today in the escape rooms is how can we create space that is engaging? You can turn it into a playground. Technology, of course, different types of pervasive technology that you can get inspired by. And content is the last thing that we can actually look at in terms of how can we address people, the process that you want to use, the technology, and the space. So from what I've done, because I only have 15 minutes to talk about this, I've got about 8 where I call it B attitudes. When you think about a hybrid solution, how can you create a hybrid solution for your stakeholders? The first one is be holistic. This diagram might look simple, but we have used it in so many different projects with different stakeholders who do not understand gamification at all. Some of them would come to us and say, let's use VR, let's use AR to solve my problem. But let's start from the beginning. What is your actual need? So it is key, it is important to be more holistic in the way we look at things, get inspiration from different things, as long as the needs is clear. So what are the actual needs that you want to address? That would help us to actually think about what types of programs that you want to create. How can we make it more gameful and playful? And then think about what are existing technologies that we can actually use to supersize the experience, because it can be either digital or non-digital, or a selection or a collection of different solutions that we can actually use. It doesn't have to be one size fits all. It can be different selections of resources that you can use. The second B attitude is be transdisciplinary. I like this word, it's quite difficult for me to pronounce it because I'm from Malaysia, so it's words. So this is based on a research that we did when we worked with a group of psychiatrists and health clinicians when they were talking about sexual health. How can we teach about safe sex? I said that we can't teach it. You need people to think about the topic themselves. So because we were working with kids who are quite young, like 13, 14, and 15 years old, so we had to work with different experts. And from this piece of work that we are doing, so we try to create sort of like methodology that can help us to look at different, how do you call it, insights into how we can create the right solution for the right group. So by looking at intervention mapping, how can we create the right intervention with the right measures, and how can we ensure that what we are doing is ethically, you know, for the stakeholders that we are going to work with. So if you want to find out more, you can search for this paper, and I can talk about it as well, but we haven't got time to talk about it today. But it's sort of linked with, I'm sure that everyone knows design thinking sort of thing. Design thinking is just a general process, but if you want to look at something which is more rigorous, we need to make sure that we think about every single parameters that would influence the success of the solutions that we want to create. The next one is be co-creative. Co-creation is key. Co-curation is key as well. Like we've done in the escape rooms today, we've done it in I'm sure that everyone collaborate with different people. I find that co-creation is a key process to onboard your stakeholders, to create solutions together. So the solutions can be more hybrid than us telling them, saying that, okay, you have to use VR and AR for your solution because it's one of the key technology that everyone is looking at. But if we use our stakeholders as co-creators and co-designers of the experience, it is quite empowering. GameChangers is one of the programs that we are running at the moment. We've run it for about 2 to 3 years now. So we've learned through this experience that people from different backgrounds and different expertise, different skills, they can actually come together and work and create solutions that is usable for their community. So any age group, and we found that it's so satisfying because it's not us telling them about, you know, creating gamified solution, but they themselves get inspirations from their own playful experience. And some of them created playful and gameful solutions. And some of them ended up creating sort of like something which is more sophisticated, like a software. GameChangers has been recognized by the higher education funders of England. So they've asked us to run it in different parts of the UK. And we have also been given a bit of funding by the NEWTON Fund. So we are working with the Malaysian government in implementing the same approach in schools. Because in Asian countries, STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and math are, you know, it's quite huge in terms of them trying to encourage people to get into STEM subjects and careers. But you were telling them that you need to be more, how do you call it, pragmatic in your approach in trying to create context for the learning rather than pushing these particular subjects to the kids and teachers. So we are using gameful thinking, designing solutions based on games and playful inspirations. So they are using that in the schools in Malaysia. Even some of the schools which are quite remote, we went to this place. Even though I'm from Malaysia myself, then again, this project is quite, it's like a selfish, how do you call it, approach in terms of getting myself back to Malaysia for free, which is fine, which is great. But yes, but we went to this remote island that I've never been before, and life was so simple there. But it's so great because they are inspired by play and games. So when we talk about this, they understood what we wanted to do. They said, this is exactly what we want to do, to reuse existing sort of inspiration around us. We don't have to look to the West to learn about VR and AR and whatnot. We've got something here that we can reuse, create educational games on top of what they already have. And that is quite inspiring for me. It's quite good to see that they are actually running programs themselves, running workshops. I think some of you have been to my workshop like last year and was there. It was simple. It's all about trying to get inspirations from existing games. All of us know what games are. My favorite game is hide and seek. It's one of the best games ever. Yeah, so the next B attitude is cross-context. The context of informal and formal. The context of, this is an example of a high school bus that we use for our Game Changer tour. We went to different universities. And we find it quite interesting because they find it quite funny. Some people might think that it's a gimmick, but when they are in that bus, they created fantastic solutions because they were in a space that is so different from where they are. So they can see a hybrid approach in terms of doing formal education in a formal setting. And they were actually creating gamified solutions they can use in the classroom. And we find this quite useful. And the context of space as well. Be creative with spaces. And the fact that for my introduction today, I was supposed to use Space Invader. So there was the whole context of space. We've used escape rooms as well. And I love it today in terms of being able to use pop-up escape rooms that will be able to enhance the learning experience. In our case, we're actually using a remote approach. So people from different parts of the world or different buildings, so they can actually play together, and they can only communicate via Skype. So that any puzzle that is solved in one room would solve a puzzle in another room. So we find it quite useful and quite interesting to see how people react and how people express themselves. So they learn a lot of things from teamwork to soft skills and all sorts of different things they can learn. So we've used that for the heads of the university. It's quite interesting to see the vice-chancellor using it as well. It was quite scary at first, but I think they loved it. They loved the experience in terms of having a hybrid space with digital solutions as well as non-digital puzzles. And two other examples that we have here, you can actually go to gamify.org.uk for some of the videos. Mike Duncan is one of my good friends. He's a professor in game science. So we use mystery boxes to confuse students in the learning, because I believe in the power of confusion that would lead to curiosity. Those of you who were in the session of Escape Room today, we were confused. We were curious, and then we ended up doing more than we should. Even someone, I think, looked at some mint tea somewhere over that side, which is a bit weird. No, the other mint tea. So it's great. So towards the end, the experience was so empowering for the students because confusion helped them to discover a lot more things beyond the subject that they were learning. And conspiracy theory, this is the whole course for computer hacking. So we gamified the whole course for the whole year. When the students came in, we gave them a role, and they've got this fake company they were working with and whatnot. And yeah, so what I'm trying to say here, you can use space to contextualize your learning or contextualize any experiences that you want to create for your clients, for your students, for your patients, if you are in a health sector. And be transferable. There are a lot of studies out there in terms of what you experience or what you gain in a game world or in a digital world, they are not translated in the real world. And the latest study, which was released, I think, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, was about multiplayer. Multiplayer seems to be working in terms of encouraging people to translate the skills that they gain from playing into the real world, because it's a social aspect. And it goes, this actually goes back to the first keynote about collective journey. Collective journey is better than a single experience that you want to create for your players, for your learners. Be pervasive. We know all about location-based type thing like Pokemon Go and whatnot. So what I'm going to say here is we need to be more aware of different types of technology that we can actually use. This technology came after creating the experience and trying to supersize it. So it's quite an interesting approach in creating a location-based experience. And we created a simple example of the game using one of our authoring tools. So you can try this out, and it's all around i360. It's such a simple game, just to introduce one of the tools that we have that can help you in what you're trying to do. Yep. So be aware of technologies. We should not be driven by it, but we should get inspiration from it in terms of the growth in different types of technologies out there, which is quite exciting. The Internet of Things, smart homes. We are working with people with dementia as well, and I was quite impressed to see one of the care home is very smart and connected. So how can we supersize the experience in how we can actually help people with different illnesses, perhaps? So I think it's quite key. And the last thing is be measurable. We need to be able to measure what we want to create. Any experiences we have need to be measured. But in a hybrid situation, it's hard. Oh, this is the last one, actually. Be empowering. Help people to create their own experiences. If you've got an authoring tool that is easy for people to use, that is a good way to onboard your clients. They can create their own experience. You can have a different business model for that as well. So just to summarize, because I haven't got a lot of time left. I think I run out of time. The B attitude is be holistic, be transdisciplinary, be co-creative, cross-context creative spaces, transferable, pervasive, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what's happening in the world, measurable. This is one of the key things that we have a lot of issues with in terms of assessment. If anyone has got any solution for assessment, let me know. Empowering. We find that people appreciate the fact that we provide tools that can help them to create their own experiences. Thank you.